All right, when you picture a biblical shepherd, what pops into your mind? I bet it's a pretty serene image, right? Some calm figure in a field, gently watching over a fluffy, peaceful flock. Well, you might want to hold onto your hats because we're about to completely shatter that image. Today, we're going to uncover the real, gritty, and frankly, dangerous life of an ancient shepherd. So let's just start with the main question here. What was a shepherd's daily grind actually like? It was so much more than just chilling in the sun. We're talking about a life of courage, of sacrifice, and an unbelievably close bond with their animals. Way more intense than you've probably ever imagined. Now, before we go any further, it's super important we get our perspective right. You see, the Bible is an Eastern book, and to really get what a shepherd's role was all about, we have to try and shed our modern Western ideas and look at it through the eyes of someone from the ancient Near East. It changes everything. Okay, so let's start our day in the life journey right at dawn. As the sun comes up, the shepherd's day doesn't kick off with herding or chasing. No, it starts with something way more personal. It starts with his voice. It was actually really common for a bunch of different flocks to get all mixed up at the village well. So you're wondering, how on earth did they sort them out? It's amazing, really. The shepherd would just stand up and let out his own unique call. And just like that, only his sheep would separate from the massive crowd and come right to him. They knew his voice. A stranger's voice? They wouldn't move an inch. And that right there shows you a huge difference. An Eastern shepherd leads his flock. He doesn't drive them from behind like cattle. He walks out in front and they follow him because they trust him. This isn't about force, you know? It's all about a relationship, one built on daily care and knowing he'll protect them. Now, let's talk gear. The shepherd had two essential tools, the rod and the staff. They might sound similar, but they had totally different jobs. The rod, that was a weapon. Seriously, think of a heavy, nasty club, sometimes even with iron nails hammered into the end. This was for one thing, defense. Then you had the staff, the one with the classic hook on the end. That was a tool for guidance and rescue, for pulling a sheep out of a thorny bush or gently nudging it back on the path. And this was no joke. I mean, think about the story of young David. When he told King Saul he'd killed both a lion and a bear to protect his father's sheep, what do you think he used? It was that very rod. This was a life-saving weapon meant for brutal, close-quarters combat to protect the flock. All right, now we're moving into the heart of the day. This is when the shepherd leads the flock out into the wilderness to find pasture. And this was the most dangerous time, where that shepherd's courage was put to the test minute by minute. I mean, just look at this list of what he was up against. The shepherd wasn't just some guide. He was a bodyguard, a navigator, a medic, a survival expert, all rolled into one. He was constantly scanning for predators, for human thieves, for cliffs, for water sources. It was a life of nonstop, high-stakes vigilance. And what this all boils down to is this. The shepherd's own life was always on the line. He wasn't just managing livestock. He was a guardian who would literally fight to the death for any one of his sheep. His own safety, that was always second, every single day. But right alongside that fierce, warrior-like protection was this incredible tenderness. Think about the newborns or any sheep that got sick or weak. They were never, ever left behind. The shepherd would gently scoop them up and carry them in the folds of his own cloak right up against his chest. So as the sun starts to set, the worst of the danger is over. But the shepherd's work is far from done. Now comes maybe one of the most important moments of the day, the final count, making absolutely sure that every single sheep is home safe for the night. This ancient ritual was known as making the sheep pass under the rod. So, picture this. The shepherd stands at the narrow gate of the sheepfold, and he holds his rod low, right across the entrance. Each sheep, one by one, has to duck its head to pass under it to get inside. This forced him to count them, but more importantly, it let him get a close-up look at every single animal, checking for cuts, thorns, bites, anything at all. And isn't that just a beautiful picture of the rod's double duty? The exact same club he used to fight off a wolf just hours earlier now becomes this gentle instrument for personal inspection and care in the evening. It perfectly sums up the shepherd's two biggest roles, fierce protector and tender caregiver. Once they were all counted, the sheep were secured in one of two types of folds. If they were out in the open country, a temporary fold might just be a cave with a rough stone wall built across the front. And in that case, Get this, the shepherd himself would literally sleep in the gap in the wall. He became the human gate, protecting his flock with his own body. The other kind, the permanent folds, were closer to the villages. These were sturdy buildings with high stone walls and one strong, lockable door. This is the kind of fold being talked about here, which had its own dedicated gatekeeper, a porter, who would guard the flock all night and would only open that door for a shepherd whose voice he recognized in the morning. So, we've walked through an entire day, from the personal morning call to the intimate evening counts. And now we can really start to see how this incredibly tough, demanding, and dangerous job became one of the most powerful symbols for leadership and care in all of human history. Let's go back to this famous psalm for a second. When David wrote, "Your rod and your staff, they comfort me," he wasn't talking about some fuzzy, abstract idea. He was a shepherd. He was talking about the very real physical comfort of seeing his protector armed with a weapon that could crush a predator's skull and a tool that could rescue him from falling into a ravine. That comfort was real. It was visceral. See, every single action we've talked about today pours into this powerful metaphor. Leading isn't just about pointing the way, it's about earning trust. Fighting predators is about total protection from harm. Carrying lambs is about tender care for the vulnerable. Counting each sheep means every single individual matters. And being willing to literally become the gate, well, that's the very definition of sacrifice. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The title, The Good Shepherd, isn't really about peace and quiet, is it? It's about fierce protection. It's about tireless dedication. It's about profound, personal, life-risking sacrifice. After seeing the reality of the job, what do those words mean to you now?